Hello, this is Bob with JustTrampolines.com, and today we'd like to talk about how to measure and what information is needed for selecting the correct replacement frame pad for your trampoline. This is the padding that covers the springs of your unit. So there's really three things we need to know to get the correct frame pad. One is we need to measure the frame. The second thing is we need to know the width of the pad that's required, and third is we need to determine if there are any holes required in the padding. Let's start with the frame. All pad sizes are determined by the frame size, and we get the frame size by measuring the outside diameter of the trampoline frame, not the inside where the springs connect here. That would be wrong, but the outside as we're shown in this diagram. Now this number should come out to an even number like 14 feet or 12 feet or 10 feet. If you come up with a number like 12'3" or 13'6", it could mean that your trampoline is out of round. And what I mean by that is it's turned into an oval shape. Maybe you drag it around the yard to get it out of the way to cut the grass, or the kids just jumping around over the years. It loses its shape a little bit. So the way you know if that's true is to make two measurements from, like, if you consider the clock analogy, measure from 12 o'clock to 6 o'clock and get one number, like in this case 14 feet, and then measure from 9 o'clock over to 3 o'clock. If this doesn't match, if you don't get 14 feet here, if you get something less or something more, then you know your trampoline is out of round. So you should really wiggle it around until you get these both numbers to match. Then you'll know you've got the right trampoline measurement. The next thing we need to know is to measure our springs. We need to know the measurement of a spring. This is to help determine what width of pad we need. So you should pick out a good spring to measure. You need to take it off to measure it. In this case, this old spring is all stretched out and obviously would not give you a good measurement. So pick out a spring that's still tightly coiled like this one and measure it from the tip to the tip. Common sizes are 3.5, 5, 7, and 8.5 inches. And finally, the last, and you can use this information to determine the width of your pad. Now, the best way to find the width of your pad is just to measure the old one. Now, this is showing a pad here, and this is the padded part, and this is the little skirt that covers the frame. When you measure your frame, your pad, your old one, you're not going to include the skirt. That would give you the wrong measurement. You're only going to measure the padded part here. So most pads are either 10 inches wide or 13 inches wide. If your springs generally are 7 inches long or less, you would use a 10-inch wide pad. If they're over 13 inches, you use a over 7 inches, you would use a 13-inch wide pad. Now, some manufacturers use a 10-inch pad regardless of the spring length. So that's why when you measure your spring, you may come up with 10 inches, but have an 8.5-inch spring. Some manufacturers just do it that way. Finally, you need to determine if your frame pad needs any holes in it. If you look at this picture on the right, you can see this blow up. This enclosure pole is connected directly to the frame, so the padding has to have a hole in it so that the pole can go through that to connect into the frame. Most trampolines, however, the poles connect to the outside of the frame. As you can see in this blow up, the pole goes on the outside of the frame and attaches to the leg. So in this case, your pad would not need a hole in it, and in this case, your pad does need a hole in it. Obviously, you would need one hole for each safety enclosure pole. There's one last thing we can do here is we can go to the website, and I'll show you how to pick one. So if you go to trampoline, hover over trampoline parts, go to frame pads, and then, okay, here we go. So then this brings up the frame pad. You're going to want to select your frame size that we measured. So in our example, we had a 14-foot frame pad. I'll select that. You'll notice as I select that, these change down here because this is filtering it. And if you, let's say you measured it and it was a 10-inch wide pad that you needed. Okay, so then if we scroll down, there's still 4 selections left. We haven't picked whether holes are required or not. If you see a picture like this with a hole in it, that means that pad has holes in it. And these ones that don't show a hole, those don't have holes in them. So anyway, if you click, 4 holes required, you will see that this one here is available and this has 4 holes required. And basically that is it. Appreciate you taking the time to review this with us. If you have any questions, you can contact us at info@justtrampolines.com. Thanks a lot.